The Writer's Dossier podcast is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network.
I'm Jason Powell. This is my Writer's Dossier.
No writers were harmed in the production of this podcast.
Today in the interrogation chair, it's New York City Firefighter and author of No Man's Ghost, Jason Powell. Today, co-host Mindy Carlson and I discuss Jason's clever path to snagging a top agent, how he doesn't watch TV shows about firemen, and something I was extremely interested in, his Rachel Ray personally endorsed steak alfredo linguini. Welcome to the Dossier Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Dossier Podcast. I'm here joined by my fabulous co-host, Mindy Carlson. Rotating co-host, she's doing her wave. Hi. I had something I was going to describe you as. It went something like beautiful and delirious, but those wasn't it. I can't remember, but
delirious. I mean, delirious sort of fits right now.
No, they both do. Well, Minnie and I are joined tonight by our friend Jason Powell, who I got to meet in Denver. Longtime friends between Minnie and Jason. So, Jason, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Dude, you're really cool, and that means a lot. That should mean a lot coming from me because I used to be a cop, and you are a real-life New York City fireman.
Yeah. People think that we're enemies, but we're actually pretty good. Pretty good friends.
I have something down in the list of things to tell you, and I'll just say it now because we get right to it here on the Dossier Podcast. I think God created cops so that firemen could have heroes too.
And what is the reason that God created comedians?
Oh, I don't know. Tell us.
No, I was just wondering. That was very funny.
That's pretty good.
You know, I was talking, I don't want to get off track here or derail the questions, but I was talking with a friend of mine. I was telling him I was doing this interview. And a guy with the author I met in Denver who used to be a cop. And he said, used to be? And I said, yeah. He said, cops always talk about how much time they have left on the job. And firefighters always talk about how much time they have on because cops hate their jobs and firefighters love them.
I get that.
That's pretty true. I feel like that's pretty true.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're here tonight to talk about No Man's Ghost. It's a stunning novel about a firefighter in New York City. You're a firefighter in New York City, but there it is.
Yes,
that beautiful cover. You're much more than that, though. You're the youngest of 9 children. You've written other fiction, and I'm told that your steak alfredo linguini is so good that this podcast might go from the Writer's Dossier to a cooking show if I let it. We have an unusual relationship with food around here, so tell us all, Jason, how do you make your linguini?
So a few years ago, 2019, I guess that was 6 years ago, I was me and 3 other firefighters were invited to join Rachel Ray for her red, white, and actually I have it here. For her issue.
Oh,
Red, hot, and blue.
Oh, nice.
Very cool.
So they do firefighter recipes in that issue. They do it once a year. And Rachel Ray is a very huge supporter of the fire service. And so they told us that we might be invited to talk about recipes that we know. So I went online and I was trying to find something fancy. Honestly, I just chose the name because it sounds fancy. Steak gorgonzola alfredo. But it's pretty straightforward.
Nice.
So you use skirt steak. We make the white sauce with heavy cream and Parmesan cheese, salt and pepper. And then I just buy a block of gorgonzola and I crumble it myself. So all the ingredients are pretty simple. I cook the skirt steak medium well. But the process of cooking it looks fancy. So if I have a date, it looks impressive.
I don't know, Minnie, my mouth's watering here. We're going to have to cut this podcast short.
I'm just glad that he didn't choose like a typical chili for that issue. I feel like that's a very cliche dish for firefighters.
Yeah.
That's not going to make the cover. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it is cliche. That being said, Firehouse chili is pretty good.
I mean, it is. I mean, it's cliche for a reason.
Right.
But you sent me a picture from you were doing the cooking for St. Patrick's Day this year, and you sent me the picture of your stove, and it was just enormous kettles of every corned beef and hot dogs. And
we were
cabbage.
feeding like 50 people, so yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Those of you listening, hop on over to YouTube and watch. Jason held up a picture of the Rachel Ray magazine that you were on the cover of with her.
Yes, sir. Rachel Ray every day.
That's pretty cool. All right, Rachel Ray every day. You know what? As a cop, I don't have anything like that. The coolest celebrity story I have is we pulled personal security for Charlie Daniels once when he came to South Carolina. So not nearly as cool as he gave a private concert for some rich Charlestonian debutante.
That is pretty cool.
Cops are really not known for their food. They're known for their donuts. So.
Oh, there it is. There it is. I had that coming.
I appreciate that, Mindy.
I'm on your side.
Jason, you've said that growing up with 8 siblings made you appreciate finding that alone time, either in a book or on the blank page where you filled the words. Now, you didn't try to necessarily escape that, though. You took a job that's pretty family-centric. So tell us what it's really like at the station house. And I grew up watching Emergency with Gage and DeSoto, so straighten me out there with how it really is.
So I got to be honest, I've never watched a first responder show. I don't know that I didn't. I've seen the movies. I'm a huge fan of backdrafts before I ever thought about being a firefighter. Since I became a firefighter, or since I knew I wanted to be a firefighter, I didn't watch the shows. I'm assuming that they're incorrect because of all the questions that I get asked. People will ask me something and they say, "Is it really like this, like it is in Chicago Fire?" And I say no. And it may be in Chicago, but it's not in New York. So, but yeah, you're right. It's the fire department is very family centric, and it's a lot more so than I knew before I got in the job. Everybody sees firefighters shopping in the grocery store, and they see us doing it together, and it feels like very much like a brotherhood because we're shopping together. But we're shopping together because we have to stay together because we're on shift. We're on the clock. We don't take a break for lunch. We don't take a break for anything. So we're on the clock. If a run comes in, we'll stop shopping. We'll leave the shopping cart where it is and go get it. But in the academy, in the fire academy in New York City, they always say the best time in the firehouse is in the kitchen. And I feel like this whole interview is starting to be about food, but it's the truth. In the kitchen is the only place where there's no rank. Everybody participates. So the junior guy does the least desirable thing. So if we're having shrimp, he'll devein the shrimps. Or if there's vegetables to be chopped, he'll chop. If we're pounding chicken to deep fry, he'll do the pounding. But everyone participates. And conversation is fun. Well, if we went to a fire recently or a significant event, we'll talk about that. But otherwise, we're talking about each other. And we're either making fun of each other or we're talking about things that there's to celebrate. And it's always fun. There's never arguments. Whatever's going on in the world doesn't make it into the kitchen. And I love that about it.
Oh, that is a good respite from everything that's going on right now.
Sorry. So for No Man's Ghost, I know it's like your guy's first day in the firehouse. And how were you able to convey some of this like brotherhood and camaraderie into that, even though it's his very first day? It's the first time he's experiencing it, because he has a really traumatic day.
So the book spans a week. It's the first week in the firehouse, but it starts from the first day. I haven't read any reviews that wasn't sent to me, and I don't plan to read any reviews, but all the reviews that are sent to me are commenting on the fact that it's a good view into the firehouse and the camaraderie. And that was a big part of me writing it. The fire department is not at all what I thought it was before I joined. And so I wanted to give people an inside view to show that it's a lot better than I expected, or what I think people expect.
That authenticity is really important. I mean, like Minnie was saying, No Man's Ghost is about a rookie firefighter just out of the academy, working his way through the training at the station when he keeps getting prank phone calls for a fire at the same place. I'm not going to give anything away, but it turns out there's an estranged husband calling in the false reports. And you turned a novel about firefighting into a thriller where the only danger isn't just the fire, but much more, right? Mystery Mike's was born in 1986, but Mike Bursaw's passion for books began way before that. When he was a boy, the bookmobile in Minneapolis would park across the street from his house, and Mike would check out as many books as were allowed. By the time he was 15, he was working for a wholesale bookseller, and he's been selling books ever since. Mystery Mike is a legend in the book community, and after a long career, he's closing up shop. It's tough to see the store close, but that means another thing: 45% off their entire inventory. Take advantage now. Things are literally flying off the shelves and being shipped all over the world. Head straight to MysteryMikes.com and get a great deal on books you're not going to find anywhere else. That's MysteryMikes.com. And thanks, Mike, for everything you've done for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you. I love that description.
Well, half of it's from Amazon. So,
Oh, good.
I mean, people just need to go to Amazon and just scoop this up. And because I keep hearing people say, oh, they'll tell Jack Stewart, oh man, I felt like I was right in the cockpit of that plane. Or they'll tell, Jack Carr, oh man, I felt like a Navy SEAL sniper, or whoever. People are telling you, oh, I get what it's like to be in a fire station, because the authenticity, you bring that to the book. You really do.
Thank you. Publishers Weekly review that we got was pretty good. And their praise was that it takes the reader into what it feels like to be inside of a burning building, which is also what I wanted to bring. And not so much that I wanted people to experience what it's like to be in a burning building. People always say to me when they find out I'm a firefighter, you really want to run into a burning building? And the answer is no, or yes, but it's not as if me running into a burning building is not the same as you guys running into a burning building. The academy spent 6 months training me how to do it, and then the firehouse spent another 18 months training me how to do it. So what I wanted to show was the fear that someone who's not a firefighter might have, or the anxiety or the trepidation of doing that, is what Charles feels, the main character feels, because he's new, and the guys are working him through that.
You mentioned Backdraft earlier. It's considered in many circles to be one of the best films about firefighting. We're curious what your opinion is. If No Man's Ghost is next up in Hollywood, and if there's any truth to the rumor that Backdraft is always on TV at least one New York City firehouse at all times, is that true?
It's true. Backdraft, My Cousin Vinny, and The Godfather. You will find it on in New York City at some point.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
That's hilarious. I love My Cousin Vinny so much. And
I gotta be honest,
feel better that the firefighters.
I love that movie also, but I never saw it until I was a firefighter.
Really?
Yes.
Was it part of your 18-month training?
No, it's just that it's on so often. I've never sat and watched it from start to finish, even though every time I see a part of it, I enjoy it. But I've seen it in its entirety because it's always on and I just catch different parts.
That's hilarious. So when do you find time to write? I mean, your shift work is long, and then you have to sleep because you've got to be fresh, and you work out constantly because you have to stay in shape to be able to run into the burning building and then pick me up and carry me out to safety. When do you write?
So I'm a single guy and I don't have any kids. When I come home from a 24-hour shift, I go to sleep. To your point, there are beds in the firehouse, obviously. There are couches. If there's downtime, people can take a nap. But the sleep is never comfortable because if the tones go up, we have to be out in 60 seconds. So you never really fall into deep sleep. Because I know that I'm not going to get good sleep, I don't even shoot for it. So we have every firehouse has what we call the house watch, which is where the calls come in, or where we come on to the front door if somebody knocks on the door to give us a call verbally. And the house watch is manned in 3-hour increments. Somebody has to be there to watch it, and we just rotate every 3 hours. Guys don't like being in the house watch because there's nothing else you can do. There's a TV in there sometimes, but most times the only thing you can do is sit down at a desk. That's perfect for me. So I always volunteer to take the house watch. And people think I'm being selfless because I'm a junior guy or because I'm young in the firehouse, but it's not. I am getting paid to work on my book.
That's awesome.
That.
I mean, and you get brownie points as you're doing it.
Hopefully they don't see this.
So Jason, let's talk a little bit more about your writing. What was your journey to publishing like? Because you've written other things. You were in Slate. You have more stories out there. People should check out your website at authorjasonpowell.com. But how did you go from a guy walking around New York City with a pen and some paper and a novel in your backpack to a guy with a published novel?
That's a great question. I had an idea for a book. I was in the subway and I had an idea for a book that I actually wrote. It came out. It would be book 2 in this series, in No Man's Ghost series. But it was before I was a firefighter. I had an idea. There was a homeless man on the train asking people for money, and there was a man who was in an all-white suit reading mail that was sent to his home or sent to the building. Like it had an address on it and a stamp, and he was reading it and he was smiling. And everyone was ignoring the homeless guy. They were reading the newspapers or they were acting like they were engrossed in their phones. And the guy who was reading the letter was so distracted by the letter that was making him happy that when the homeless guy came to him, he just reflexively put his hand in his pocket and gave him money. And then I got an idea of like, I was thinking that the back of the envelope of the letter had a heart on it. So I was imagining that the letter was from his daughter or his granddaughter. And so then I had the idea of a homeless man meeting his daughter for the first time. Daughter he didn't know. I was like, oh, that's a good idea for a story. And I wanted to write it. And then I started looking into traditional publishing and the difference between traditional publishing and self-publishing. And I know that I don't have the stamina to be a self-published author. And so I knew that I wanted to be traditionally published and that a lot of people, from everything that I was reading, it's a hard process to get an agent. So to kind of move my name higher on the list, I started writing short stories with the idea that if the short stories get published, and now I have a resume, like I'm not the only person who thinks I'm a good author. And so I joined Submittable and I started looking at their contests and I got 8 short stories published that way. And then with those 8, the Slate one actually came through the fire department, but with those 8 and then Slate, I started querying agents, and that's how I found Abby.
At Lark Words, right?
At Lark Words, yes. At the Lark Group.
Yeah.
In my head, I thought that the agent's job is, once I have an agent, everything's easy for me because all the hard work is now on the agent. And I love Abby, and it's 100% true. All I have to do is the part that I enjoy, which is writing. Abby even edits. Like she's not the sole editor, but I'll send her a manuscript and she'll send me some changes. And when I'm done with Abby's edits, I'm like, I love this book. And then it's Abby's job to sell it. And so my part is the easy part.
Here's shout out to Abby Saul, right? We met
Abby
in
Saul.
Chicago, and we're planning on doing a dossier on her because we do a segment on agents and editors and publicists and audiobook narrators. And so that's in the works. So I can tell everyone that Jason is right on with this one. It's so important to get a good agent, someone like Abby, to take really good care of you. But I'll also remind everyone that this is the beginning of the journey for you, man. And we're excited to see where it goes for you. There's a lot ahead, and really clever. And good job getting those stories out there, having something to put on a query letter. So a lot of writers listen to this and they wonder, how do I break in? There you go. Be creative and work. Always be working. Anything else to add?
No, I was recently asked about some of the questions to Mindy's about making time and what the best advice is. And I'm reluctant to give advice. I have had one book published and I don't want to act as an expert, but I will say every book that I've read on writing talks about the importance of writing every day. Stephen King's Memoirs on the Craft, he says, if you don't wake up in the morning and want to write, you're not a writer. I don't agree with that, but I do agree that it won't get done until it gets done. So if you work 40 hours a week, there's still 161 hours left to do something. I'm not minimizing the things that people have in their life, but I'm saying writing the book, your book won't get told, and your story won't get told, and the book won't get done until you put the time in. So all you have to lose is getting the story out that you want to get out.
Yeah. And I think Stephen King also said that if you write 1 page a day and you want to write a 350-page book in less than a year, you'll have your book written. So it's, he was talking about like that consistency of like just a little push every day. But it's really about, it's consistency and finding your rhythm, and then having somebody like Abby who she's also my agent, and we get an email every 2 weeks, and I like to tell her that I've done something.
Well, that is great advice, Jason, and don't feel bad about giving it. And Mindy always has good advice. So everybody, stop what you're doing, open up a browser and go to authorjasonpowell.com, look up No Man's Ghost. He's holding it up on the screen, folks. Go ahead and watch this on YouTube. Get to know Jason Powell, follow him on social media, and grab this book. You're going to realize just how hot things can get. How about that?
I see what you did there.
All right, we could go on. Funny.
He's very good. We could go on about cops and firefighters all day, but all I want All I want is some Alfredo sauce. So I think we're gonna go make that up here. And again, it was great meeting you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for
Mindy,
having me,
anything
John.
else? Got an English wave for us?
Like my English way of Aldo. So next time I see Jason though, I owe him a cupcake.
Please.
Oh,
That's our thing. Every time somebody new joins the agency, we tell them that they owe Jason a cupcake.
It's only fair.
It is only fair, but
all right,
yeah,
Mindy.
so
Next time we're together, Mindy, bring me a donut.
I will bring you a donut. I'll bring him a cupcake.
All right,
good.
Jason, thanks for joining us. Mindy, thanks for joining
Thank
us
you,
as
guys.
always. It's good to have you. We will see you next time. Everyone, thanks for joining the Dossier Podcast. Goodbye, everybody. The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.